Doc Network to answer your health questions live. My name is Hassan Imatullah.
And I'm Damien Okewale. Today, we're discussing something many of us consume every single day without thinking twice about it: food. But we're not just talking about food. We're talking about food eating habits that may be quietly increasing our risk of hypertension, diabetes, obesity, stroke, kidney disease, heart disease, and even some cancers. Because many people assume that health problems appear suddenly, but in reality, most lifestyle diseases develop slowly over years. And this is due to bad choices we make in regards to the food we consume. One extra cube of seasoning here, one bottle of soft drink there, too much processed foods, not enough fruits, vegetables. We all love our salt, we all love our sugar, and we fry everything. And before we know it, our body begins to show the consequences.
Okay, so today we are asking which foods are causing the most damage? What ingredients should Nigerians be paying closer attention to? Are some of our favorite foods more dangerous than we think? And most importantly, how can we eat better without necessarily spending more money? Joining us today is Dr. Oluwatosin Alabi, a nutritionist and dietitian who will help us understand hidden dietary risk and practical ways to improve our health through better food choices. Good morning, Doctor. Welcome to the program. The phone lines will be open shortly for you to ask your questions. It's still Radio Doctor on Women FM 91 Women Radio rather 91.7. The doctor's detail will be shared at the end of the program.
All right, doctor, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
All right, doctor, let's start broadly. How much of these disease burdens do we see today that are linked to what people eat?
Okay, thank you very much. So, I think the most common would be diabetes and then hypertension. And most people have hypertension and they don't even know. Research has shown that 1 in 3 persons have hypertension and they don't know. Most people will just go on with the stress and everything. And by the time they break down, that's when you will hear that news. When they go to the hospital and then they be diagnosed, that's when they'll now be like, oh, so I'm hypertensive. And also diabetes, by the time a person detects diabetes, research has shown that that person already had diabetes 10 years before the diagnosis.
Mm,
Mm.
Yes.
okay. Thank you, doctor. So
Thank
can
you.
we say that Nigerians are becoming less healthy due to their dietary changes?
Yes, we can say that. They are becoming less healthy. From our basic science, elementary science, we were taught the basic characteristics of living things, Mr. Niger D. And nutrition happens to be one of them. And in fact, nutrition is the very key one because everybody eats, everyone eats. You have to eat something to keep you going, to keep you alive. You have to eat. And so Nigerians have neglected that part. We now take joy. We place premium on fast food. Let me quickly get this, grab and go. And
Mm,
then when we do that consistently, we are harming ourselves. Our health decline gradually.
mm. Thank
Mm.
you, doctor. So in terms of I know that over back in the days, people there was vegetables and things like that, but now things are changing. So what can we link what's the major shift that had occurred in our eating habits over the last, let's say last few decades?
Okay, so thank you very much. I would say, based on what I said earlier, we all want to stay in the urban areas. We want to stay in areas that are bubbling. We don't want to stay in the rural areas. And then most of us, we live in houses where, everywhere is tiled, everywhere is cemented. There's no place to even practice home gardening. Unlike back in the days, like you mentioned, they do more of home gardening. From farm to your plate, you're sure of what you're eating, but now we are not even sure of what we are eating. A colleague of mine complained, I think, few months ago that she went to the market, she got some vegetables, and then she just kept them that she would prepare it the next day. On getting there the next day, it was already rotting. Just something she got a day before, less than 24 hours. So that tells us that we are not really eating healthy. In fact, our purchase is not 100% healthy. We are not sure of what we are getting. And so when we want to eat healthy, we have to trace our steps back. We have to do like they did in those days. Our forefathers would do more of home gardening. They do more of planting. They eat fresh fruits. They eat fresh fruits. They eat natural foods. They eat food in their natural forms. So I think that's where we are missing it out. And then the issue of going more on carbonated drinks and neglecting water. That
Mm.
is very, 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 that is a very serious one. Yes.
Thank you, doctor. So why are lifestyle diseases increasing even among younger adults nowadays?
So, now we have juvenile diabetes. We have the younger ones having even the type 2 diabetes. Those days there used to be more of the type 1 diabetes for the younger ones. But these days we have the younger ones having type 2 diabetes. It's no longer insulin resistance. It's actually the fact that their body has failed to absorb the glucose produced after they eat. So I think one of it would be, like I mentioned, focusing more on ultra processed foods than our natural foods. Then secondly would be neglecting exercise. Most of us, the younger ones these days, everybody wants to ride on Lamborghini and all that. It's not bad, it's good. But then we need to create time to exercise. A friend of mine updated our WhatsApp yesterday, and she was talking about I think the non-motorable transport, and she was talking about Legacy Benz, just to on a lighter mood. And then I felt, yes, that's true. Most of the younger people now, they drive to the exact place they are going to. Unlike the way we encourage people now that if you're going to a place, try to park few distance from that place and then you walk. Even in other developed countries, you see that when you want to go get groceries, the parking lot is a bit far from where they are going to, such that you park and then there's an amount of time for you to trek. You walk down. That's a form of exercise. Then another thing is stress. Everyone is stressed out. The issue of mental health we cannot neglect it. So stress also triggers some hormones in our bodies, and then that also works around our health, metabolism, and all that. So aside our diet, our exercise is important, stress management is important for the younger ones now.
Mm. Thank you. My final question would be, would you say that people underestimate the long-term impacts of our food choices, the everyday food choices?
Hmm. Yeah, I'll say yes. I'll say yes because people feel like by the time I eat this, I'll go to the toilet and I'll pass it out. It does not really have much to do with my health, but
Mm.
that is very wrong. It takes sometimes it takes people to now fall into that state of emergency before they now take their diet seriously. When you tell people that, oh, have you seen a dietitian? Have you gone to see a nutritionist? They'll be like, no, I don't need to. I'm not sick. I'm okay. There's nothing wrong with me. You don't need to wait till you're sick. Being overweight is a form of sickness. Being obese is a form of sickness. In fact, research has shown that those two things, are weight. It predisposes to all these long-term medical conditions. And then you don't need to wait till you're sick. So people always use that as excuse that I'm feeling fine. I don't need to see a doctor. I don't need to see a dietitian, which is very wrong. So people don't really place premium on their health until it gets to emergency, and that is very wrong.
Mm.
Okay, doctor, let's get specific. What foods do you consider some of the biggest hidden threats to health in Nigeria today?
Okay, thank you very much. So the foods I consider as the biggest threats. So I would talk about the six classes of foods. So first, I'll talk on carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, when they are not in their natural forms, are threats. So I'm talking about the ultra processed ones. I'm talking about the simple sugars, the protein. When we take protein in excessive amounts, it
Okay,
becomes threat. So food does not become threat when probably it's because it's not good. You
okay,
can be eating a good food and be combining it the wrong way, and then it poses threat.
okay,
And then excessive frying. These days we fry a lot. We take too much oils. All these foods, the food groups are good, but when taken in moderation. But then when we now take excessive amounts, it becomes stress. So ultra processed foods, our normal foods, our normal classes of food, the carbohydrates when it's ultra processed, the protein when it's excessive, the fat when it's excessive.
Okay. Many people focus on sugar. Like everybody says sugar is not good. Is excess salt even a bigger problem?
Yes, it's in fact, those two, they work hand in hand. They work hand in hand.
Yes.
There's something we call osmosis, and then it has to do with all this, the salt and sugar solution, how they affect themselves. Salt itself affects health. So there's something we call dash diet for hypertensive patients, and there is so much emphasis on salt. There is an amount of salt they are supposed to take per day. So when we go for packaged foods, we cannot specify the amount of preservation, especially the amount of salt or in some cases sodium.
Okay.
So aside running away from sugar, salt should also be put in check.
Mm, okay. Thank you, doctor.
You're
Let's
welcome.
talk about seasoning cubes. What should people understand about sodium intake and health?
Okay, thank you very much. So there's been a lot of noise about seasoning cubes, MSG, and all that. And yes, the truth is that when things are taken in excessive amounts, they pose health threats to us. So, and then MSG, which is monosodium glutamate, can
Okay.
also be found in natural food, some natural foods like your tomatoes. Yes, MSG, and
Oh,
people will be like, oh, I'm not taking MSG, I'm running away from MSG and all that. The truth is they are in our natural foods. But then talking about the, seasoning cubes and all that, we can take them in moderation. There is no way you can put a person off those things at once. So I've cleared patients that are hypertensive, diabetic, and then they want to go off the seasoning cubes. And I tell them you can't go off totally, you just start gradually because our taste buds are used to it. This
yes.
umami flavor, yes, that's what we get from them. But then it takes a long time before we start to, bring our buds back to tasting the natural foods that we have.
Okay.
So yes, it might be harmful, but taking them in moderation is still key because MSG, we have MSG in other natural foods.
Okay. Okay. How significant are sugary drinks in the rise of obesity and diabetes? And are fruit juices always better and healthier than soft drinks?
Thank you very much for that question. Okay, so carbonated drinks. Carbonated drinks have amounts of sugar in them.
Okay.
Aside that, they have caffeine. So, I mentioned some hormones that might, trigger some things in the body system, metabolism, and all that. Those
Yes.
carbonated drinks, aside the sugar, for being avoided by diabetic patients, people
Okay.
get obese when they consume carbonated drinks a lot, and that includes packaged fruit juices. I won't leave them out.
Okay.
So when you consume carbonated drinks over a long period of time, the caffeine affects your health. There's something we call cortisol. It's an hormone in our body. Some people they react to caffeine. They don't sleep. If you don't sleep, your body's the cortisol production increases, your stress level increases, your body is not resting, your body is not using up the glucose from that carbonated drink, even from the packaged fruit juice. And
Okay.
then the cortisol also affects weight gain. It increases weight gain. So people, their weight gain increases. The fat stores. When the glucose in the blood is excessive, such that the liver absorbs, the muscles absorb, and then we still have some in the blood system, they are stored as fat.
Okay.
That's a mechanism, that's a process that's a jargon in chemistry and all that. But yes, so consuming that for a long period of time, it increases the fat stores in the body, and then the person becomes obese. And the person is like, "Ah, I'm not eating fatty foods, I'm just taking carbonated drinks." The glucose is converted into fat. So, and
Okay.
then packaged food juices are not healthier than carbonated drinks. I would say
Okay.
that, yes, I would say that with my full chest as a registered dietitian. So I
Okay.
would advise that people go for their freshly squeezed juice from fruits, or better still, eat their fruits whole, such that they are getting the fiber and they are getting all the nutrients from the fruits.
Okay. Okay, so does this also apply to yogurt or is it just on soft drinks and fruit drinks? Do you advise fresh yogurt or can we take packaged yogurt also?
Okay, so there's so much there are so many yogurts. And
Okay.
then sometimes we mistake milkshakes for yogurt.
Okay.
They are two different things. We have milkshakes, we have yogurts.
Okay.
Yes. So the Greek yogurt will be the one that I would recommend, but it should also be quantified. When
Okay.
something is abused, when it is taken in, too much, when too much of everything is bad. Yes, let me just use that food. Too much of everything is bad. So Greek yogurt is fine, but it should be portioned.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. Should
You're
people
welcome.
be worried about processed meats like sausages, hot dogs, and canned meats?
Yes, they should. They should. They should. Because the canned one, especially, they are preservatives, they are added salts, and then you can't really be safe with all these things. So, like we said earlier, our forefathers go for the fresh ones. you
Yes.
can you can you can have a poultry and then where your chicken and all that guinea fowl, yes. So I'll prefer those ones than the canned ones, although the truth is most people staying in the urban centers, they rarely have access to these fresh ones, but try as much as possible to reduce the consumption of this canned and the processed meat.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
doctor. Thank you, doctor.
You're
So
welcome.
my next question would be: we have a lot of there are a lot of products in the market that they say is healthy food. Um, are there foods that are claimed to be healthy that are actually not healthy?
Mm.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. We have a caller.
Okay, okay.
I don't think the caller is Chief Agozi rather. Can you hear me? Okay. I don't think he can. I guess it's the network. Maybe he'll call later.
Okay, so to your question that are there some products in the market that are claimed to be healthy but are not really healthy? I don't want to shake this table. I don't want to break it. Yes. So, but let me tread carefully. The thing is that I think we have bodies that we have NAFDAC. We have bodies that regulate food products, especially. So, one thing I would advise everyone to do is to be careful and to be conscious of what we eat. You're the one paying to get these things, and then you should be able to look through, read the nutrition information carefully. And I think that's where we are being lazy. When we read the nutrition information, I'm sure now that they are now going everywhere, and then if there's any product that doesn't have this nutrition information, they are taking off the market. And yes, so I want everyone to be very intentional. Let's be intentional about our health. Let's do well to read through this
Mm,
nutrition information. I don't want to break this table because I don't want to be sued. Yes. So I just want everyone to put let's take our health in our hands. Let's be very, very intentional. So that will be my answer. Yes.
mm. Thank you, doctor.
You're welcome.
The whole this whole the healthy awareness, people trying
Mm,
to eat healthy food and things. And when you go to the supermarkets and places, you start seeing new technologies on products.
mm,
For
mm,
instance, like you see low fat, diet, sugar free, all those new technologies.
mm.
You now understand
Yeah.
what it really is.
Like the detox tea and all that. So I really want to talk on that. People they've been cajoled on detox and all that. And I made a post sometimes about our organs. Our God is so good. Our liver detoxes, our kidney detoxes. And that's where adequate hydration comes in. When you take enough water, your body automatically detoxes on its own. The liver is there. So when
Mm,
people come up and they say, "Oh, I'm taking this tea to detox, I'm taking this tea to burn fat, I'm taking this tea," and then they are taking all those things, but they are neglecting the natural things like the water. like you focusing more on the whole grains than going for ultra processed foods, like you ensuring that your meal timing is proper, like people ensuring that the quantity of the food they are eating is relative to the physical activity or to their energy requirements in a day. You understand? So I think that's where people get it wrong. Don't let us be cajoled and then, be tossed around here and there. Take this tea, take this for to burn your fat, to shrink fibroids, to do this, to do that. Our diets are powerful. Like all our food groups are powerful when combined well. And then when you have the right person, the right professional, the healthcare practitioner, a registered dietitian to help you, to talk you through. People should place premium on their health, and then let's always see the right persons. Let's not be cajoled with all this news around. So yes,
Mm.
that's what I would say.
Thank you. Something you mentioned. So you said something about the size of food that is equivalent to what they are doing for the day in terms
Mm-hmm.
of. So how do people like know what size of food they are meant to eat? Like if I'm hungry
So
now, for instance, I just put all the food in the plate, now eat
okay,
tells me to stop.
okay, so that's where telemedicine comes in, actually. That's where teledoc comes in. Based on people's age, their gender, physical activity, the BMI, which is the weight relative to the height, yes,
Mm,
based on okay, so let me just take those things. And then if there are probably any medical conditions, there is an amount or there is a particular calorie that we are supposed to consume.
mm,
A man would eat more than a woman because men are more muscular. And then you will always, men tend to do more than women. But in a case where we have a woman eating more than a man, and then she's not so active, she is not as if she's in any physiological state, probably not pregnant, not lactating, not breastfeeding, and then she's eating excessively, she will definitely gain weight. But for people to now be sure of what am I supposed to eat, what is the quantity, then there has to be some checks. That's where the BMI comes in, question about physical activity comes in, question about is there any medical condition? Are you on any medication? Yes, because sometimes medication to dictate on the calorie. Some people will eat more, they will require more calorie for the medication they are on. So that's where Teledoc comes in. If anybody has that question, it's time for you to sign up on Teledoc and hit up the dietitian and let's run you through. Let's help you plan that meal and you eat right.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You can book Dr. Alabi on the Teledoc app. All you have to do is download the Teledoc app, search for Dr. Alabi Oluwatosin, pick a preferred time, and consult and discuss on anything you want to talk about. Doctor, my final question for you is in terms of traditional Nigerian meals, can we actually say that those meals are more healthier than the nowadays type
If you
of
want
food,
to, okay, the Gen Z.
like Gen Z type of food?
Okay, yeah. So, well, dietary diversity is key, actually. Forefathers used to eat some particular types of food, and then science, everything is evolving. We are getting new foods. But one thing I want to hammer on, one thing I want to place premium on, one thing I want to go big on now is that the foods that we used to eat back in the days, that our forefathers used to eat back in the days, the pap, the leafy vegetables, the traditional leafy vegetables, now you hardly see leafy vegetables like worowo, odu. What you see now is ugu, ugu, ugu. Some people don't even know what is igaga. They don't know what is igbo. They don't know what is ebolo. All those traditional leafy vegetables that are nutrient dense, we don't have more of them. But in other ways, we have the new ones coming up. We have kale, we have broccoli, we have cauliflower, we have people incorporating more of spring onions, carrots, doing more of the stir fries and all that. Yes, those ones are also healthy. So far, they are prepared in the right way. I was talking to some patients in the clinic yesterday, and I was emphasizing that most people go to the market, they buy their vegetables, and then they slice before they rinse. And some people will still blanch, they will put salt, they will still pour the water away. The nutrients are all gone. So there is the right way to prepare even these traditional meals that we used to eat, that our forefathers used to eat in the olden days. There is the right way to prepare them to still get the amount of nutrients needed. And for the Gen Zs, the incoming ones, if they are not ultra processed, If they are, the whole grains, the vegetables that are fiber rich, cruciferous vegetables, the non-leafy vegetables, if so far they are, they are healthy, they are in their natural forms, yes, they can be taken. There is no one-way traffic to nutrition. It's personalized, and then diversity is the spice of life. Variety is the spice of life. So we need to spice up things, even when it comes to nutrition. Yeah.
Okay, so doctor, picking from what you said are you saying we shouldn't blanch our vegetables at all?
Okay. So yes, thank you for that question. The truth is that blanching vegetable has its health benefits if it's done minimally. Not
Okay.
that people blanch and then they leave it, for it to become so soft, so tender, and then they still pour out, they still rinse, they still pour up the water. By the time you do all this, you notice that the water after coming out from the blanched vegetable is somehow greenish, and
Yes.
then you have most of the nutrients in that. By the time you pour that away, you're just eating plain fiber. There's no vitamin A, vitamin C, they are eat label. By the time you blanch and you leave it for long, you've killed the micronutrients needed.
Mm.
Yes, we are trying to get rid of some, organisms, microorganisms that we can't see and all that, but it can be done minimally. You can blanch minimally, not doing it, not going overboard. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. You are listening to Radio Doctor on Women Radio, WFM 91.7, powered by Teledoc. The phone lines are now open. You can call on 0800 or 07000 or you can text or WhatsApp us on 07031 or 08155 Okay, doctor, what diseases are most strongly linked to unhealthy eating patterns, rather?
Okay, so I'll be talking about the ones that are so rampant now, the ones that are so obvious. That's diabetes, hypertension. We have dyslipidemia coming up now. That is, cholesterol level being
Okay,
above normal. Yes. And then cancer is on the rise. When
okay,
we have all these things, and then the number one will be obesity and overweight. That's the very first one that predisposes to other ones.
okay.
So when we have all these conditions, they are becoming rampant now, and they are linked to unhealthy food choices.
Mhm. Okay, thank you, doctor. How early can diet-related damage begin in the body? And can someone appear slim but still be at risk because of poor nutrition?
Yes, yes. So I've been talking about overweight and obesity. There is still being underweight, and then there is another one which we call the triple burden of malnutrition.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes,
I didn't get that, doctor.
triple burden of malnutrition. So a person
Okay,
can be either underweight, overweight, or have micronutrient deficiency.
okay,
So having micronutrient deficiency is something that we don't see. It is hidden. When a person is underweight, you can see that, oh, this person is either slim, the BMI is below 18 and all that. Oh, he's not looking, big, he's looking too thin and all that. And then when a person is obese, you can see it, oh, this person is looking too big for his or her height and all that. But when a person has that hidden malnutrition, that is micronutrient deficiency. So a person might have vitamin A deficiency, a person might be anemic, that person has iron deficiency. A person might have vitamin C deficiency, a whole lot. So it is eating. Yeah.
okay.
So it is eating. Yes.
Okay, so another question. Is it normal for a person to eat a lot? Yes, this person is not looking underweight, looks normal, but the person consumes a lot of food and is still slim.
Okay. So yes. So that depends on, we have something that we call genetic. There are
Okay,
genetic factors that cause that. And then physical activity also, like I mentioned earlier. The person eating a lot might be doing a lot of brain work or a lot of physical activity. So the
okay,
brain takes up glucose in form of dextrose, and then it still comes from what we eat. Yeah, so a person might be slim, eats a lot, and yeah, it's possible.
okay,
But such a person should now be careful of fat intake, because the issue of dyslipidemia or high cholesterol is not about the looks. A person might be slim but still have, fluctuating cholesterol levels.
okay, okay. Thank
Yes.
you, doctor. So, how does unhealthy eating affect the kidney health, and does it have any effect on heart rate diseases as well?
Okay, thank you very much. So, when people are diagnosed with diabetes, when they are said to be diabetic, most people, what they do is they switch to beans or they switch to protein foods. They are
Okay,
like, okay, Shebi, they said diabetes, if you take too much carbohydrate, that's where the problem is from. So they switch to the protein rich foods. And then that way they are giving the kidney more work to do. So
okay,
that's where the kidney issue might start from. Another way it could come up is people that are hypertensive. When a person is hypertensive for a long period of time, not compliant with drugs, not compliant with dietary modifications,
okay,
hypertension can actually link to kidney issues.
okay,
Yes, so those things are related. And then some medications also, some medications cause kidney issues when they are used without the doctor's prescription, when they are used excessively. Yes.
okay, okay, okay. Thank you, doctor. Does a person's diet have any impact on his blood pressure?
Yes, definitely. So, yes. So, what I forgot to mention, what I forgot to clarify when you asked the last question was
Okay,
hydration is also very important. When we are
okay,
talking about kidney health, hydration is important.
okay,
So, moving now to this question, people believe that blood pressure is basically because I'm doing something stressful, I'm going up and down, the stress is too much, and all that. Sometimes our diet, in fact, most times our diet play a major role. The
okay,
first thing is our intake of salt and sugar, like you said.
okay,
So sugar is not just a culprit when it comes to diabetes. It's also a culprit when it comes to hypertension.
okay,
Salt is another thing. The third one is hydration. The
okay,
fourth one is managing stress and resting,
okay,
such that we are able to control the hormone in our body that we call adrenaline.
okay,
So, all these things, especially resting and managing stress, it affects. And then our diets, when people focus on taking too much oily foods, frying, 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 there are some people that they cannot do without frying foods. There are
mm,
some people that they cannot do without eating, all these organ meats. They call them tinu eran in Yoruba. Some people cannot do without taking it. They cannot do without taking it. The offals, the organ meats, they should be taken in moderation because they are fatty. And
mm,
then most people, yes, they are fatty. Yes. And most people do not check what we call their visceral fat reading. The visceral fat
okay,
reading is very important. People just focus on their weight alone. They stay on the scale and it's just their weight. The visceral fat reading predisposes to hypertension, and this
okay,
comes from what we eat. So let's reduce intake of fried foods. Let's minimize our use of salt and sugar. Let's focus more on whole grains, healthy foods, and let's stay hydrated. And of course, let's be physically active. Yes.
okay, okay. There you have it, people. The doctor says, blood pressure is not only affected by stress, but also by your dietary habits. Okay, doctor. My last question for now: does the dietary habit of a person increase the cancer risk, or does it have nothing to do with it?
Of course, it does. So there are lots of Nigerians now that have taken interest in. By the time I get home, the next thing I want to take is, oh, there's a suya man along the junction to my house. I'll just get suya and then I'll drink gari with it, or I'll just get suya and I'll just maybe take bread and something. When we eat foods that are smoked, especially
Okay,
those ones that we do not prepare ourselves, we are exposing our bodies to cancer cells.
okay,
When we stay in areas that are polluted, we expose ourselves. But basically, from what we eat. So let
mm,
us reduce intake of, smoked foods, especially those ones that we don't know the source. That's why we have air fryers now. We have a way we can grill on our own at home, and then that is healthier and it's safer. So let's throw away all those mentality of fast, fast, sharp, sharp food. Let me quickly eat, or let me take plenty sugar Gary. By the time I run, by the time I go to the gym, I'll burn it. Sometimes we don't burn all those things. And then, the cancer cells thrive when they see sugar, when they see all these smoked foods, yes, that are unhealthy. Yes. So let's
Okay,
be careful with
let's
what we eat.
retract. You are not saying suya is bad. You are saying it's better you make them yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, thank you, doctor. It's good we did that retracted because I was just thinking about suya. If okay, doctor, if a listener wants to, improve their health this week, where should they start?
They should start by signing up on TeleDoc. That's the first thing. That's the first thing. But yeah, but to be honest, I think it starts from, taking charge of what you eat.
Mm,
If you're the busy type, you can do meal prep. You can prep your meals, and then you're sure of what you're going to eat for probably 2 days or 3 days stretch. You're not thinking, because thinking on what to cook alone is stress. So I won't lie. I won't
mm,
even lie, because I'm a 9 to 5 person, so I can relate. And then, you're working on the island, you have to leave home early, you're getting home late. By the time you come back, you're tired. But when you meal prep on days when you're free, it saves you that stress. And then you're able to plan, your diet for 3, 4, 5 days at a stretch. And then always have a bottle of water with you. Stay hydrated. Don't wait till you're thirsty before you drink water. Drink water, it helps. Sometimes you are even thirsty, not hungry. When you're feeling hungry, sometimes you just need to take water. So always have a bottle of water with you. That's just that. And don't forget to sign up on Doc. Very important.
Okay,
mm.
sorry to interrupt. I have a question, doctor. When you say prep your meals, do you mean like is it okay to fully cook the meals and keep them in the freezer to store? Or do you mean just like basic preparations?
Okay, so either way is fine. But the first one, I would say, if you want to cook your meal totally ready, like for those that are the working class type, that that you don't even have the slightest time to prepare, you can cook your meals, but ensure that you don't leave it for too long. Once you're done cooking, just leave it to cool, and then you package and put it in the freezer. Make sure it is frozen. That
Okay.
way you're not going to give room for the growth of microbes or anything. But if you're the type that that the power supply in your area is not so good, you can just prep halfway. Like, you have your vegetables, the carrots and all that. You can have them ready, chopped and kept in the fridge, just to cool, and you know that you have something to work on. Yes.
Okay.